Looking for a crochet Santa stocking or a crochet Christmas stocking? You've come to the right place. This easy crochet stocking pattern is the perfect crochet Christmas stocking for beginners or experienced crocheters.
Hello from Halifax. I'm Jo with Jo the World Creations.
And today we're going to learn how to crochet a crochet Christmas stocking step by step, and we're going to get right to the video tutorial. If you'd like to follow along with written instructions, the free crochet stocking pattern is available on my website. Let's get started and crochet this stocking together. The stocking is made from the toe up. The pattern has two sections, the stocking body and the stocking trim. We're going to start with the stocking body. And the first thing we're going to do is work on the toe. For the stocking body, you can use any size 4 medium yarn. I'll be using cherry, and for the hook size, use a J hook. We're going to start by making a magic circle. This is how I make my magic circle. I have a whole other video showing how to do this step by step slowly that I'll link to in the description below. To start the toe round 1, we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to make 10 half double crochet stitches into this magic circle. So to make our first one, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the magic circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull the yarn through all 3 loops. There's our first half double crochet stitch now complete, and we're going to make a total of 10. There's my second and third. You go ahead and make 10 half double crochet stitches into the magic circle and come back to the video. You should now have 10 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The chain 1 that we made at the beginning of the round does not count as a stitch. In this pattern, chains never count as stitches, so only count the half double crochet stitches that we made. To finish the round, we're going to pull the magic circle tight to close. So that means to take the end, not the yarn that's attached to the skein, but take the end and pull tightly to close. Now we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet that we made in the round. We're not going to work into that chain 1. So working right into the top of that first stitch, we're going to slip stitch. Working into the top of that first stitch, slip stitch to join. To start the toe round 2, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. For this pattern, we're always going to work into the very first stitch. This is the stitch that's attached to the chain. And we're going to go right into the repeat portion of the round. And this is what we're going to be doing all the way around. So in the next stitch, which is the first stitch, we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches into this first stitch. So working into the first stitch, make 2 half double crochet stitches. There's 1 and 2. Now working into the next stitch here, we're going to make 1 half double crochet stitch. And this is what we're going to be repeating all the way around. In the next stitch, 2 half double crochet stitches. There's 1. In the same stitch, make another. And then working in the next stitch, make 1 half double crochet stitch. You go ahead and do that all the way around. I'm almost finished repeating that all the way around. I have 2 stitches left to work into. Wanted to point out that this slip stitch here that joined the previous round does not count as a stitch, and it does not get worked into. So we only have 2 more stitches left right here to work into. And nothing special happens. I'm still repeating. In the next stitch, make 2 half double crochet stitches. And in the next stitch, make 1 half double crochet stitch. At the end of this round, we should have 15 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Again, this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch. Working into the top of that first stitch, slip stitch to join. To start the toe round 3, we're going to chain 1. Once again, we are not going to turn. A reminder that we always work into the first stitch, that stitch that's attached to that chain, and into this first stitch, we're going to start the repeat portion of the round, and we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches into this first stitch. There's one. Working into the same stitch, make another. Now we're going to make a half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So working in the next stitch, make 1 half double crochet, and then working into the next stitch, make another half double crochet stitch. And this is what we're going to be repeating all the way around. In the next stitch, 2 half double crochet stitches. And in the next 2 stitches, make 1 half double crochet and 1 half double crochet. You go ahead and repeat that all the way around. You should now have a total of 20 stitches. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. As you can see, my work is curling a little bit, and I'm just going to adjust it so that it curls the other way. This is the right side or the front of the stocking, and we want it to be facing us. So the inside or the wrong side, we want it to be on the inside. To start the toe round 4, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. In the next stitch, which is the first stitch, we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches in the first stitch. And then we're going to half double crochet in the next 3 stitches, just making 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 3 stitches. And that's what we're going to be repeating around. So in the next stitch, 2 half double crochet stitches. And then we're going to make a half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. You go ahead and repeat that all the way around. At the end of round 4, you should have a total of 25 stitches. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. Before we move on to the next round, I'm just going to quickly weave in this end so it's not in the way. You can either do this now or wait till the end, but it might be easier to do it now just while you have good access to the inside of the toe. To start the toe round 5, we are going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. In this first stitch, we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches. And then we're going to half double crochet in the next 4 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to repeat in the next stitch, make 2 half double crochet stitches, and then make 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 4 stitches. And you go ahead and repeat those steps all the way around. You should now have a total of 30 stitches. And to finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. For toe round 6, we're going to chain 1 and we're not going to turn. Into this first stitch here, we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches. And we're going to half double crochet in the next 5 stitches. 5. And then you're going to repeat in the next stitch, make 2 half double crochet stitches, and then 1 in each of the next 5 stitches, and repeat that all the way around. You should now have 35 stitches. And to finish the round, we're going to make our slip stitch in the top of the first stitch to join. For the toe round 7, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. Into this first stitch here, we're going to make 2 half double crochet stitches. And for this round, we're going to half double crochet in the next 6 stitches. While I'm doing this here, I'd love to know, where are you going to use your stocking? Are you going to hang it up on your mantle, or is it going somewhere else in your house, or is it a gift? Let me know in the comments. That's 4, 5, and 6. In the next stitch, make 2 half double crochet stitches, and then make 1 half double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches, and repeat those instructions all the way around. You should have a total of 40 stitches. And to finish, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch. To start toe round 8, we are going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. For this round, we're simply going to make 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch around. So starting with this very first stitch, make 1 half double crochet stitch, and then make 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. You go ahead and do that and come back to the video. You should have a total of 40 stitches. And like we always do, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. For the toe rounds 9 to 12, you're going to repeat round 8. So do the exact same thing we just did. You're going to do that for all of rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then come back to the video, but do not fasten off after you've completed round 12. I've just finished the toe round 12. I often get asked, how do I keep track of the amount of rounds that I've completed? And there's a few ways to do this. 1, you can just jot down on pen and paper and keep track manually. 2, you can count from the bottom up, and I'll show you how. So right here is the first round. This is the round where we worked into the magic circle. So that's round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can always keep track like that, or you can also use stitch markers to help you know what round you are on. This completes the toe section of the pattern, and we are now going to start on the heel. As I mentioned, I've just completed round 12, but just so you can see exactly which direction I'm working in, I'm just continuing off. This was my last stitch of round 12, and I finished the round by slip stitching into the top of the first stitch to join. To start the heel, row 1, we're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. We are going to make a half double crochet stitch in each of the next 18 stitches. So starting in this first stitch, make your first half double crochet stitch. So there's 1, and you're going to count making 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 18 stitches. Here's my 18th half double crochet stitch. That was my first one, and there's my 18th. We're going to leave the rest of the stitches unworked. So there should be 22 unworked stitches that we're just going to leave alone right now. After making this 18th half double crochet stitch, we're going to start the heel row 2. Chain 1, and we are going to turn our work. So simply flip your work over like you're flipping a page in a book. And the wrong side of our work is now facing us. So the wrong side, or the inside of the stocking, is now facing us. We're going to make a half double crochet stitch in each of these 18 stitches. So start by working into the first stitch, the stitch that's attached to this chain here. Make your first, and simply make a half double crochet stitch in each of these 18 stitches. I've made 17 stitches so far. Wanted to point out this last stitch because it can just look a little different than the other ones. It can be on an angle here. Here we're going to work into the top of this last stitch. So this will be the last stitch that we work in. And this is my 18th half double crochet stitch. For the heel, rows 3 to 8, we're going to repeat row 2, which is what we just did. Really quickly again, all that we're going to do is chain 1 and turn. And working into the first stitch, we're going to half double crochet and then half double crochet in each stitch across, meaning that we will have a total of 18 half double crochet stitches at the end of each row. You go ahead and repeat heel row 2 for heel rows 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then come back to the video. I've just finished the heel row 8. If you're wondering if you have the right amount of rows, you can quickly count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you should have 8 rows complete, finishing your last stitch on this left side right here. And next is where the magic is going to happen. And don't worry, I've tried to make this heel part as easy as possible. We're not going to fasten off. It's just going to be a couple simple things that we're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how we're going to make this all come together. So let's begin the leg instructions and begin with the leg round 1. To start the leg round 1, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. The right side of the stocking is now facing us. We're going to start by working across the top, and we're simply going to make 1 half double crochet in each of these 18 stitches. Starting with the first stitch that's attached to that chain, we're going to make our first of 18, and then work all the way across, making 18 half double crochet stitches. You should now have 18 half double crochet stitches by working all the way across the top here. Now we're going to work down the side. So I'm going to rotate my work just like this. And what we're going to be doing is making 8 half double crochet stitches that are evenly spaced out down the side. We can use the ends of the rows as guidelines so that our stitches are evenly spaced out. But note that the exact stitch placement is not important. You don't need to put these stitches in the exact right spot. One thing that is important is that we want to, when we're going to make our half double crochet stitch, we're going to insert our hook under 2 loops. The reason for this is if you work under only one, it can stretch the loop, and then you might have a little gap in between here. So try to always find a place where you can work under 2 loops and then go to make your half double crochet stitch. But the exact place is not important. Let's do it together. So here's my last half double crochet stitch that I made across the top. So I'm going to find a spot really close nearby. Using this row as a guide, I'm going to insert my hook right at the end of this row, trying to find a spot under 2 loops, and simply make a half double crochet stitch. There's 1. So I made a stitch at the end of this row. I'm going to find a stitch at the end of the next row, yarn over, and I can find a good spot here, and take your time because these can be a little tight, but I've inserted my hook under those 2 loops. Now I'm going to make my second half double crochet stitch. There we go. Find the end of the next row, There's a good spot here. There's my third. And the next row here, insert my hook under 2 loops. There's my fourth. And the next row here, fifth, and the next row, 6. And I have 2 more rows that I'll be working into. So the end of the next row. And then finally the end of this 8th row here. Or it's really the first row of the heel that we'll be working into the end of. Insert your hook under 2 loops and make your 8th and final half double crochet stitch down the side. You might see your work curling at the corner here, and that's completely okay. We're going to continue working in the same direction, but you'll just have to flip your stocking over a little bit to work into it. We're going to be working into the unworked stitches along the bottom here. There are 22 unworked stitches across the bottom. The first of 22 stitches is this stitch right here. This is a stitch that has not yet been worked into. It can be a little tricky because the stitch beside it almost looks like you want to work into that, but if you take a close look, that stitch has already been worked into, so don't work into this, work into the unworked first of 22. And if you're still confused about which is the first stitch, you can always count to make sure that you have your 22 and know exactly what stitch to work into. So at the end, this will be our last stitch that we work into before we work up the side. Starting in this stitch right here, just make 1 half double crochet in each of these 22 stitches. That was my last stitch working down the side. Again, this stitch that's close to it does not get worked into. Work into the unworked stitch, and this will be my first of 22. And then you're just going to half double crochet in each of these 22 stitches. I've made 21 stitches so far. This is the last unworked stitch that I'll be working into to make my 22nd half double crochet stitch. Now we're going to work up the side, and we are going to do the exact same thing that we did when we worked down the side. We're going to make 8 evenly spaced out half double crochet stitches all the way up using the rows as a guide and working under 2 loops. Now for this very first stitch, I'm going to make it somewhat close to the side so that there's not too much of a gap. Here's 2 loops I'll work under right at the beginning of this first row, and it's a little tight. Take your time. And again, the exact placement does not matter, but you don't want to have too much of a gap between those stitches. I've worked into the end of that first row, finding a spot near the end of the second row under 2 loops, half double crochet. So that was the end of the second row. Let's find this place at the end of the third. And while we're doing this, I'd love to know, what's your favorite thing to get in a Christmas stocking? Here's the end of the 4th row. Find a good spot here. Mine is one of those big Toblerone bars. I love them. I only eat them at Christmas from my stocking, but it is my favorite thing to get in a stocking. Next, working into the end of the next row. Let me know in the comments what your favorite thing to get in a Christmas stocking, or if you have any family traditions about Christmas stockings, I'd love to hear them. We have 3 more stitches to make. I'm working into the end of the 6th row here, end of the 7th, and finally make a half double crochet at the end of this 8th row. At this point, it's a good idea to count your stitches all the way around from the very first stitch that we made. You want to make sure that you have 56 stitches made in this round. And to finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet stitch that we made in this round. So working into this first stitch, slip stitch to join. Now we're going to start the leg round 2. We're going to chain 1 and we are not going to turn. For the first part of this round, we are going to make 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 25 stitches. Starting with this first stitch here, we're going to make our first of 25. And if you find it helpful, feel free to put a stitch marker into that first stitch and continue to do that for the rest of the pattern if that helps you identify that first stitch, if you need any help with that. So there's my first of 25. Here's my second. You go ahead and make 25 and then come back to the video. I've just made 25. This is my 25th half double crochet stitch. And we're right at this corner here. What we're going to do next is over the next 2 stitches, we are going to half double crochet 2 together. Don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to do this. We're going to start by yarning over and inserting our hook into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Now we're going to yarn over again and insert our hook into the next stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 5 loops on our hook. We're now going to yarn over and pull that yarn through all 5 loops. That completed half double crochet 2 together counts as just 1 stitch. Now we're going to make 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 20 stitches. There's my first of 20 and my second of 20. You go ahead and make 20 half double crochet stitches and come back to the video. This was my 20th half double crochet stitch. Next, what we're going to do is over the next 2 stitches, we are going to half double crochet 2 together. We'll go a tiny bit faster this time. Working into the next stitch, and then working into the next stitch. Half double crochet 2 together. And that counts as 1 stitch. And lastly, we are going to make 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the next 7 stitches. This stitch here is the slip stitch from the previous round and does not get worked into and does not count as a stitch. So our last stitch will be right here, not into this slip stitch. And right here is the chain 1 that began the round. So you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half double crochet stitches. Working into the next stitch will be my first, and you go ahead and make 7. With those 7 stitches now complete, it's a good idea to count your stitches. You should have a total of 54 stitches. To finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. To start the leg round 3, we are going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. We're going to half double crochet in the next 24 stitches, starting of course with this first stitch. There's our first, and you go ahead and make 24 half double crochet stitches. After making those 24 stitches, we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and half double crochet 2 together. Just to ensure that you are working into the right stitches. 1, you can always count to make sure you have your 24. But you can see here, this is my half double crochet 2 together from the previous round, and that's the second of the 2 stitches we'll be working into. So you want to ensure that this stitch is right here, and we're going to half double crochet 2 together over these 2 stitches. So working into the next stitch and into the next stitch. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next 20 stitches. So here's our next stitch. That's our first of 20. You go ahead and make 20 half double crochet stitches. Here was my 20th half double crochet stitch, and now we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and half double crochet these 2 together. As you can see here, here is my half double crochet 2 together from the previous round, and that's the first stitch that we'll be working into, and then we'll be working into the stitch right after it. So working over these next 2 stitches, half double crochet 2 together. And then we're going to make 1 half double crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. You go ahead and do that. At the end of this round, you should have a total of 52 stitches. And then we're going to slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch to join. This is probably a good time to point out that it's absolutely okay if your heel looks like a rectangle. I promise that once the heel is finished and the stocking body continues, or the leg continues, once it flattens out and it's folded, this corner here tucks in really nicely, and it's going to have that beautiful stocking shape that you saw in the pictures. But it's okay if it's big and bulky and rectangular and the corners sticking out right now. It does get better as you continue on. I will say though that this heel is very, very beginner friendly. We did not have to fasten off and reattach our heel, which is what a number of sock and stocking patterns do, but that does make the pattern more advanced. So this is a very simple heel, but I think this gives you an absolutely wonderful Christmas stocking while still being a very easy pattern. Let's move on to the leg round 4. We are going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. We're going to start by making a half double crochet in each of the next 23 stitches. You go ahead and do that. This is my 23rd half double crochet stitch. Next, we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and do a half double crochet 2 together. Now we're going to half double crochet in each of the next 20 stitches. You go ahead and make a half double crochet in the next 20 stitches. There's my 20th stitch. Now we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and a half double crochet 2 together. And lastly, we're going to make 1 half double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. You should now have a total of 50 stitches. And to finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first half double crochet stitch made in the round to join. To start leg round 5, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. We're going to half double crochet in the next 22 stitches. There's my first. You go ahead and make 22 half double crochet stitches. I've just made 22 half double crochet stitches. Now over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet 2 together. And now we're going to half double crochet in each of the next 20 stitches. After making 20 stitches, we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and a half double crochet 2 together. Now we're going to make 1 half double crochet in the remaining 4 stitches. You should now have a total of 48 stitches. And then let's slip stitch into the top of this first half double crochet stitch made in the round to join. We have 2 more rounds of doing very similar things that we're going to do before we get to just work all the way around. So let's continue with leg round 6. We're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. We are going to half double crochet in each of the next 21 stitches. There's my first. Go ahead and make 21. After making 21 stitches, I bet you can guess what we're going to do. Over the next 2 stitches, half double crochet 2 together. I'd love to hear what your favorite Christmas tradition is. Now we're going to half double crochet in each of the next 20 stitches. For me, my family used to go bowling on Christmas Eve, and we used to do it every Christmas Eve. You go ahead and make 20 half double crochet stitches. After making 20, we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and half double crochet 2 together. Now we're going to half double crochet in the remaining 3 stitches. You should have a total of 46 stitches. And slip stitch into the top of that first stitch to join. All right, last round of doing the same thing. Here we go, leg round 7. Let's chain 1, we're not going to turn. We're going to half double crochet in each of the next 20 stitches. So you know the drill, make 20 and come back to the video. After making 20 stitches, we're now going to work over the next 2 stitches and half double crochet 2 together. Now we're going to half double crochet in the next 20 stitches. After making your 20th stitch, we're going to work over the next 2 stitches and half double crochet 2 together. And then we're going to half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Those are the 2 remaining stitches in the round. You should have a total of 44 stitches. To finish the round, slip stitch to join. So you did it. You did the most difficult part of the pattern, and it's going to be smooth sailing from here. Let's start leg round 8. And this is what we're going to be repeating for the rest of the stocking leg. We're going to chain 1. We're not going to turn. We're simply going to make 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch around. Again, always starting in this first stitch. There's our first one. And you're going to half double crochet in each stitch all the way around. You should have a total of 44 stitches. And then to complete the round, working into the top of the first stitch made in the round, slip stitch to join. For the leg rounds 9 to 22, you're going to repeat what we just did. Repeat round 8. And then after you've finished leg round 22, come back to the video and we'll continue. Feel free to go put on your favorite Christmas movie. I'd love to know what that is, by the way. Maybe let me know what your favorite Christmas movie is in the comments. And we will see you back after you complete leg round 22. I've just finished the leg round 22. Now that we're finished the leg, we are going to fasten off, which means to cut the yarn that's attached to your skein, leaving about an 8-inch tail, and then pull that tail through the loop that was on your hook and pull tight. Next, we're going to start on the trim. There are 2 options for the yarn that you can use for the trim. Option 1 is to use Pipsqueak by Bernat in white or a similar size 5 bulky and 100% polyester yarn. I really love this yarn, especially for Christmas patterns and for this Christmas stocking. I think it's absolutely wonderful and it resembles Santa's fur. However, I know that this yarn is hard to find and it is a little bit hard to work with because you can't really see the stitches. So that's why I created another option. If you can't find this or can't find anything similar, then you have another option. The other option is to use 2 strands of size 4 medium yarn. And you'll use these 2 strands held together the entire time. And this is what it looks like if you do that. And I still think this looks great and it's easier to work with and easier to find. If you're going to use pipsqueak, you'll need approximately 30 yards. If you're going to use 2 strands of size 4 medium yarn, you'll need approximately 2 times 40 yards, so 40 yards of each. What you can also do if you don't have 2 skeins, you can set aside 40 yards from this main skein, and that way you can still use 2 strands held together the whole time. For the rest of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do it with these 2 strands. But the instructions are exactly the same if you're going to use pipsqueak or a similar size 5 yarn. So here's where we fastened off. I'm just going to tuck this end into the stocking so it's out of our way. To work with the 2 skeins together, simply grab the ends of both strands and we're going to treat them as one and crochet normally, just as we normally do. And it's okay if they twist and overlap. It's going to give us the look that we're looking for the trim for the top of the stocking here. We are going to attach our yarn to the back of the stocking. So here you can see the toe. Here's the heel. And just fold your stocking in half and just find a stitch at the back. So find a stitch that's right in the center of the back and insert your hook, and I'm still going to be using this J hook for all of the trim, and just insert your hook into a stitch at the center or the middle of the back. So you can see here. Now we're going to take our yarn and place it on our hook. And we're simply going to pull the yarn through the stitch. And to start the trim round 1, we're going to chain 1. We are not going to turn. If you're using pipsqueak yarn, you'll do exactly the same thing. Insert your hook into the stitch and place your yarn on your hook, pull it through, and then chain 1. And note that the right side of our stocking should be facing us. Next, we're going to work into the same stitch that we attached this yarn to, and we're going to single crochet. So insert your hook into the same stitch that you just attached the yarn to and make a single crochet stitch. This is our first stitch of the round. Now it's very obvious that this is the first stitch because we're using a new yarn, but in future rounds, feel free to use a stitch marker so you can keep track of what's the first stitch in each round. Now we're simply going to single crochet in each stitch around. And if you're using 2 strands, you see how they twist and overlap, and that's absolutely okay. We're going to single crochet in each stitch around, and I'm going to fast forward here so you can see what happens when we get to the slip stitch from the final round of the stocking body. I'm almost at this slip stitch from where we join the final round from the stocking body. I have 1 more stitch to work into, and then once we get to this slip stitch here, we are not going to work into this slip stitch. This does not count as a stitch and does not get worked into. So I'm not going to work into this stitch, but I am going to work into the next stitch, which is what we slip stitched into, which was the first stitch of the round on the last round of the stocking body. So we're going to work into this next stitch here, skip the slip stitch, and then work into the first stitch of the last round of the stocking body. I hope you're following me here. If you have any questions, please let me know. So still single crochet in the next stitch, skip the slip stitch right there and then work into the top of that next stitch, which was the first stitch. And then continue making a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. I just made my last stitch. This is my 44th single crochet stitch. You should have a total of 44 stitches. It's okay if this chain 1 that we made to start the round is a little loose. Once we weave in those loose ends, that'll tighten up. And to finish the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet stitch made in the round to join. So working in the top of this first stitch, slip stitch to join. Now we're going to start the trim round 2. And this is what we're going to be repeating for the rest of the pattern. To start the trim round 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. For this round, this is a wrong side round because the inside or the back of our work or the wrong side is facing us. The stitch that's attached to the chain is a slip stitch from the previous round. We are not going to work into this slip stitch. This never gets worked into or counted as a stitch. Our first stitch of the round is the next stitch, the top of the last single crochet stitch we made in the previous round. So this will be our first stitch and we're going to single crochet all the way around. And we should have a total of 44 single crochet stitches. And this next stitch here is our first stitch. So not working into the slip stitch. Skipping that slip stitch, working into the next stitch, single crochet. And we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. If you are working with pipsqueak yarn, it can be very hard to see your stitches, and I recommend counting as you go. You can also use stitch markers to keep track of your rounds. So simply single crochet in each stitch around. I'm nearing the end of the round and I wanted to point out that I have 2 stitches left. If you're unsure of what's the last stitch to work into, feel free to count your stitches to see what's the last stitch, but I find it looks a little different since we're chaining 1 and turning at the start of each round. So wanted to point out that this here is our last stitch of the round. So I have 2 more, nothing special happens. It just, the look of that last stitch looks a little different compared to when we didn't turn. So there's my second last stitch, my 43rd single crochet stitch, and here's my 44th single crochet stitch of the round. And then here is the first single crochet stitch made in the round. And again, feel free to use a stitch marker to clearly identify this stitch. And we're going to slip stitch into the top of it to join. For the trim, rounds 3 to 8, you're going to do what we just did and repeat round 2. So for the start of every round, you're going to chain 1 and turn. So you're going to be working on right side rounds where the front of your work is facing you, when the round number is odd, and when the round number's even, you'll be working on wrong side rounds. Always skip that first stitch, that stitch attached to the chain, and work into the next stitch as your first stitch. If you see these strands a little out of place here, that's from when we attach the yarn, and once you weave in your loose ends, you can cover that up. You may be wondering why we chain 1 and turn for the trim, and the reason for that is to ensure a nice straight join line, and so it doesn't go slanted like this. We want it to be nice and straight so it stays at the center of the back of our stocking. And also, every time we chain 1 and turn, it's going to give us a little more texture for this trim, which I think is appropriate for a Santa stocking. You go ahead and complete trim rounds 3 to 8. And then after you finish round 8, come back to the video. So depending on which option you chose, this is what your trim should look like. It should be approximately 3 inches high. And if you want to adjust the height, you're absolutely welcome to. You can continue repeating round 2 as much as you'd like. I preferred to end after a wrong side round, so you can see the texture here. That's what I thought looked the best, but you can decide for yourself what you'd prefer. Whenever you are finished the trim, the last thing to do is add a hanging loop so that we can hang up our stockings. Would you mind if I pretend that I'm finished my trim here? I've just completed round 2, which was a wrong side round. And if you're following the pattern exactly, round 8 is a wrong side round. So you're going to be in the exact same place that I am here, just you'll have a little more height on your trim than I have here. But I'm going to show you how to do the hanging loop. So you should have just made your slip stitch, and we are now going to go right into the hanging loop. We're not fastening off, we're going to start right here. I chose to chain 8 for my hanging loop, but you're welcome to adjust the size if you'd like it any smaller or larger. You can make any number of chains. There's no specific multiple required. So I'm going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm simply going to slip stitch into the same stitch. This is the top of the first stitch of the last round on the trim. We're just going to slip stitch into the same spot. This is the same place where we joined. So going right from making those 8 chains into making a slip stitch in the same stitch. And that's it. We're now going to remove our hook. We can fasten off our yarn and then pull those ends or your end through that loop that was on our hook and pull tight. And the only thing left to do is weave in all your loose ends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy making this stocking. I would love to see your finished stockings. If you want to tag me in any of your posts, if you're sharing them online, I'd love to see them. If you have any questions or if there's anything at all I can do to help, please let me know. If you like this video, I'd love if you could give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.